Welcome to First Take. Thank you so much for being with us on this hump day as the fantasy football marathon continues. We got the rookie,
fantasy Stephen A. Smith.
We've got you covered on all things fantasy all day. We're getting you set to dominate those upcoming drafts. As a fellow champion, I can speak to that. I have that experience. Yes, Mr. Smith?
Couple of things. I just want to let everybody watching this show over the national television airwaves know Max and I do not have on the same outfit. My blue shirt has patterns. My blue shirt has patterns in it, okay? His is probably just plain Mary Jane, just that kind of stuff. My shirt is a bit darker, has patterns, has a little bit more style.
You have a navy suit on. I got a charcoal suit on.
Okay. So that's a charcoal because it looks blue, but you got on charcoal. I got blue. So I just wanted to make sure that number one. And number two, I think it's more important than anything, Max, that we remind the American viewers and the viewers worldwide what we're looking at right now is fantasy football. Molly Karen Rose is a cheater.
No.
She is a cheater. She understands she wins fantasy football by
I'm
cheating.
better at something than
and I just want everybody to know that. Okay, so I just want everybody to know she turned me off the
Stephen
fantasy
A.
football
drafts
about 3 years.
kickers, defense, and quarterbacks.
Where does this come from?
That's what he does. Do you see how bitter he is about it?
Wait, Stephen A., you drafted a quarterback in the first round, right?
Yeah.
I never played fantasy football but once in my life.
Lots of excuses.
Now, Molly convinced me to do it 1 week. And, she never told me because I never played it at all. And I picked a quarterback. And she never told me that wasn't the wisest move to make. She just set me up.
We're competing against
told me
each
to make
other.
a bunch of picks
We weren't
and did it work.
teammates.
I never played
again. It's competition.
I never played.
You're
supposed to be helping me. You're supposed to be
loser.
helping me. That's all right. I got Matthew Berry. coming to help me.
Well, that's an upgrade from my fantasy knowledge, that's for sure.
We're going to do that fantasy.
All right, you know what? Just because of that, I'm going to start with your football team, the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, Lord.
And you know what, Stephen A.? They're not sharing their preseason plans, just like I'm not sharing my fantasy plans for Dak Prescott. But it seems like the first time he'll be seen back on the field playing in a game will be in the season opener. Dak's only chance to play in the preseason will be this week. Now, in yesterday's Hard Knocks episode, Prescott references that he's on a pitch count in his recovery. There is a good chance Dak will go into the opener against Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay without having taken a snap in a game since that severe ankle injury that ended his 2020 season. That was in Week 5. Max.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you expect him to struggle early since he hasn't had any preseason reps?
Oh, yeah, I do. He's not Superman, Even if it was Patrick Mahomes, who is Superman, or Aaron Rodgers, who is Superman. Like, when was the last time Dak was in a game? Last October? Last October? You want him to not have any real game action for almost a year, for 11 months, and then week 1, step out onto the field. And which field might that be? He's on the road at Tampa against the defending Super Bowl champions who happen to have quite a defense. Yeah. When you say early, Molly, I'm not saying it's going to be week 4 and it's like, what happened to Dak?
Yeah.
But week 1 out the gate, it ain't going to be pretty week 1, Stephen A., for Dak Prescott against that Tampa defense. And we even saw when last seen, when they went 8-8, he put up those amazing numbers. A lot of that was because, well, first of all, he's a very good quarterback. There's no denying it. But a lot of it was because they had an awful defense, and they got to come back in games. They got to air it out in the second half so they can pile numbers a lot of times in losses. He might connect for some bombs in the second half, but it is not going to be a good day for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys week 1 against that Tampa defense on the road.
What, Southern Steve?
Max,
what do you want?
Max, thank you for making me laugh because Max is sitting there talking as if it was going to be a good week for Dallas, even if Dak Prescott had been throwing the football. It's not going to be good anyway. I don't give a damn what condition he's in, okay? They going up against the reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night game. Tom Brady already told Michael Irvin, get ready because we coming. You understand what I'm saying? We going to do something to y'all. Tom Brady was at the Hall of Fame for a Hall of Fame ceremony talking major smack. Don't get me wrong. The Dallas Cowboys offense, I think, is going to do its thing to some degree. You can't have that many weapons and do nothing. You got Dak. You got Ezekiel Elliott. Your offensive line should look better. You got Gallup and Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. There is no excuse whatsoever. Even your offensive coordinator, somebody that's been on the job a few years now, continuity, just consistency, knowing what you're doing, developing that chemistry with one another. You're in sync. There's no excuses. The bottom line is that Dak Prescott needs to chill, doesn't need to throw too much, doesn't need to participate in preseason action because he needs to make sure his arm is as strong as it needs to be so he could go out there and fling that football. No matter what way you slice it, it still wasn't looking good for them for week 1. So I don't know why everybody's acting like, oh my God, do we expect Dak to struggle early without playing in the preseason? How about do we expect Dak to struggle early? Period. And stop right there. Because I don't give a damn whether he was playing in the preseason or not. Going up against Tampa week 1 with that putrid defense that doesn't have anywhere to go but up. Thank God they drafted Micah Parsons out of Penn State. In the end, what it comes down to is that Dallas is going to be the prohibitive underdog because their defense stinks. We all know it. At least we knew it from last year. We expect them to improve, but we don't know how much improvement is going to take place. And very little to nothing is going to be expected from the Dallas Cowboys. So all I'm trying to say is that Max sitting back and talking like, oh my God, you're just going to go out there after not playing any preseason, not developing any chemistry. You haven't been throwing
they got a built-in excuse
Your timing's down. Your timing's not down. And all of this, it don't make a bit of difference. I don't care if Dak Prescott played every preseason game, every down of every preseason game. It ain't going to make any difference opening night. I tell you that.
I think the Cowboys would certainly lose that game whether or not Dak had a preseason, but we're talking specifically about how Dak will look. Now, here's the difference between this year and last year. Last year, no one had a preseason. Everyone was in the same boat. But this year, guys do, even if it's one fewer game, right? One less game, they got 3 instead of 4. But these other players, including on the defenses, are in rhythm by the time the season starts. Dak won't be. I mean, you saw in Hard Knocks the first episode, Stephen A. He's champing at the bit to get in there. They're trying to hold him back. He's still overdoing it and winds up hurt. If you shut this guy, if he doesn't play in the preseason, he's farther behind the 8 ball than he would otherwise be, regardless of whether they lose to the Bucs or not. Now, if you want to ask, does this actually help the Cowboys in a weird way? I think it does. Long term, I think it does because it takes a little pressure off in terms of expectations early. It builds in an excuse while the offensive line that hasn't played together healthy in a while gets that together, while the defense tries to acclimate and come back from the awful season last year, while they integrate some major pieces, young pieces. You on the defensive end, you mentioned Parsons. Obviously, he should have an impact. It buys them a little time in terms of expectations and built-in excuses. That's different than asking, is Dak going to struggle early? Yes, I think if he doesn't get into preseason games, let me be very clear, he'll be worse than he would have been had he gotten into preseason games. And since that's the Tampa defense, I think he will struggle early.
I think a couple of weeks in action, meaning in practice, Max Kellerman. I think that Dak ultimately, muscle memory kicks in, repetition, etc., and as a result, you end up being just fine and doing what it is that you do. Those couple of weeks, Max, are going to be the week leading in to the Tampa Bay game on opening night, Thursday night, and then the 10 days following to game 2. Those are the 2 weeks, Max. And as a result, I think he's going to be fine. And if that is something that you co-sign with, Max, then guess what? Like I said, it's normal because you were going to lose week 1 anyway.
You know why I don't co-sign? You'll appreciate this.
Lose week 1 anyway. That's what's going to happen.
You know why I don't co-sign, and you'll appreciate this?
Why?
Who's he practicing against as opposed to a preseason game? Who's he practicing against?
It's Dallas Cowboys defense.
There you go. There you go. He's not playing a real defense.
He looked great. He looked great the first 5 games before he got injured. For me, it all comes down to if he's healthy or not. That's really what it is. Not the preseason.
What were the records in those games, Mom?
He had record-setting numbers. He put
what was their record, Molly? I said, what was the Cowboys' record? I didn't ask you about Dak Prescott's numbers. What was their record in those games? He looked so beautiful.
I don't even remember.
Right?
I'm not sure on that.
They were a
I'll
game
check the
above
research.
I think it was like
500.
I think they were 1-3
1 and 3?
on the way to a 2-3 record. And
Well, I
by the
blame the
way,
defense,
they were
not
coming
that.
back
you're
from
right.
a
No, you're
deficit.
right.
They were coming back from a deficit.
They won the game on one of the biggest blunders of the year. 5 defensive
Atlanta
mistakes.
What do you want from me?
Atlanta
Right.
Falcons.
That's right.
Dak's arm looked great. That's what
This
we're
is-
focused on.
I'm just saying.
Right.
saying. But you know what? I'm going to try to make a trip down there to see my buddy Jerry Jones.
I
and my
wish I
buddy
was
Stephen
going to
Jones.
that
I'm
Thursday
try,
night
I'm going
game.
to try to make a trip down there to Big D. I mean, I reckon it's the
Big
right
D
thing to
doesn't
do.
want you.
I reckon it's the right thing to do. I'm gonna mosey on down there and got my cowboy hats and my boots with my
Okay.
spurs in
No,
the back,
see,
and
Molly?
I'm just gonna have a
Listen,
good old
Southern
time.
Steve.
Molly,
That's
this is
right.
why he wasn't invited to the slumber party. Remember the slumber party
Oh,
Jerry
yeah.
had? And we
Yeah,
all
that
thought
was
Stephen
fun.
A. would be invited. He talked
Yeah.
I
like
did
the
want to be on.
Cowboys.
I did want to
That
be
was
on
a
that
good
yacht.
time.
I did want to be
Yeah.
on Jerry's
Yeah,
yacht.
he had
I
your
must
mail
have
and the
said.
outgoing
Because
mail.
you're
He took it
bougie.
right
Must
back.
have
You're bougie. You're so Hollywood. I don't even know who you are anymore.
Hey,
Can
hey, ain't nothing wrong being Hollywood.
Can I mosey on to the
being
next
in
topic?
Hollywood.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure,
Oh,
absolutely.
Back to you.
Okay, thanks. All right, I'm going to do that. Kemba Walker, get me the jersey, is ready to rebound with his hometown New York Knicks. He was all smiles as he was introduced Tuesday as the new starting point guard for New York. He'll play in the arena that he made a name for himself in high school at Rice and then University of Connecticut. But this isn't just a homecoming, it's also a redemption tour.
My knee feels great. Obviously, I haven't been playing as much like in the season, but yeah, I feel really good. I haven't had this much time off in a little while, in a few years, to be honest. So, it feels good to get this rest, as well as just to take this time to get my knee right.
Will there still be a plan for you to play back-to-backs or not play back-to-backs?
You gotta ask them. Ask Tibbs.
Now, who is his jeweler? I really need to
How
step my
easy
game
is
up.
Kemba to like, though?
Yeah, he's the best. He's the Husky. Come on. After finishing fourth in the Eastern Conference last season, the Knicks currently are tied for seventh in the East next season. They're tied with the Bulls, who finished 10 games under 500 last season. We had a debate about this, Max. You took the Bulls. The Crosstown Nets are even money favorites. Okay, Kendrick Perkins joining us. Is Kendrick coming in? There
he
he
is.
is. Kendrick, you look very handsome. I like this haircut. It's like it's a
I
little,
appreciate
it's a
it,
little
Molly. What's going on,
shorter.
y'all?
Yeah, looking great.
She just gonna throw that out about big boy KP. She don't say nothing about us, Max. Don't say nothing about us. I mean, we
Oh
don't
my
be on the
God.
air with her
You
every
have
day.
enough, you have
Kendrick
enough
Perkins,
people
Kendrick Perkins comes
gassing
on.
you up.
Oh, you look
he has
really
a new
nice.
haircut, and I
You know
like
what
his
I'm saying?
jacket and his tie. What do you want?
saying.
I got a haircut last week.
All right,
I didn't hear
Perk.
anything from
All right,
Molly.
Perk, stealing all our shine, Perk. All right, okay. All right, go ahead. Molly.
Oh, Stephen A. I cut like 10 feet off my hair. You didn't notice. All right. Well, the Knicks get out of the first round.
Same link.
Stephen A., you're up first.
Yes, it was the same day. His hairdo was the same link as it was the last few days or a couple of weeks, Molly. Yes, I
Focus.
check out the vibe. I checks out the vibe. Y'all, all of y'all.
He's trying to avoid the
deal.
question.
I checks it out. Okay, here's the deal. One of the things that I recall, y'all, in all seriousness, was when Kemba Walker departed from Charlotte in 2019 to go to Boston. And I got a call on my phone, and the call rang, and it was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan called because he wanted to make sure that everybody in the basketball world knew that even though he was losing his best player, a guy that had went like 4 consecutive years averaging better than 20 a game, a couple of seasons averaging, you average 23.9, 25.2, that kind of stuff. Michael Jordan wanted everybody to know, even though the brother could play, it was nothing compared to the person Kemba Walker was and obviously is. Loves the kid and talked about his character, talked about his hard work, talked about, what a great guy he was, et cetera, et cetera. And the people in the league that you talk to that knows Kemba Walker, they say the same thing. And when you saw that smile yesterday and him joking with the media and all of that other stuff, I'm glad Max brought up, he's such a likable guy, because he is. He really, really is a great dude. And so what happens is, why is that relevant to this? Because we're talking about the Garden. And once again, I get back to culture. Because we know that Kemba Walker, when healthy, can ball. And he good for 23 a night. Easy. He's got those kind of skills. He don't need help creating his own shot. He certainly can make perimeter shots. He can close. You know, we know what he brings to the table. And when you consider the way the Knicks play defense, if you got a couple of dudes that can score some buckets for you, that is definitely an upgrade, and that can make things very, very interesting. But the reason why I was so happy about this, because I'm suspect about his knees. Of course, that's a big deal. But if his knees is healthy, I have no questions about his game. But what I love about it is because, Max, how many times did we sit here in the past before Leon Rose and World Wide West arrived to join Scott Perry and they brought on Tom Thibodeau? How many times did we sit back and talk about the New York Knicks culture created by James Dolan and what a cesspool that was? And so obviously they've turned in the right direction. But then to get somebody like a Kemba who not only can ball, but I can assure you the media is going to love, not just because of his character, not just because he's a nice guy, and not just because he can ball, but because he's homegrown as well. And he's a guy that's excited about being at the Garden and playing in New York City. When you talk about that kind of culture, that kind of stuff that contributes to the culture, that's what I love, because that's what the Knicks have been telling me since Leon Rose arrived. It's about culture changing. This is a strong, strong step in that direction, and I love it.
Okay, culture. Are they getting out of the first round?
Yeah.
I think they can.
Okay.
I think they can. It's going to be tough, but I think they can.
I agree with what you said. I agree with everything you said up till right there. They ain't getting out of no first round. Knicks aren't getting out of the first round. Like, let's presume health for a second, right? We assume health for these teams, right? Like, of the major players. Here's the problem. If you, by first round, you mean they can win a play-in game, I would say maybe they'll win a play-in game if they're there. Maybe they lose a play-in tournament. They don't make the playoffs. But let's say they are in the playoffs. They're going to win a first-round series because they're going to be a lower four-seeded team, not an upper four-seeded team, which means they're going to have to play one of the following teams. The Brooklyn Nets, or the Knicks going to beat the Nets? And when I ask that question, I mean, are they going to win a single game from the Nets? The answer is no. Are they going to beat the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks? No, they won't. Are they going to beat the 76ers? Well, that depends what they get for Ben Simmons. Yeah, Daryl Morey's going to get fleeced, right? No. They're going to put a team around Embiid. They will not be better than the team with the best record in the Eastern Conference this past season. They ain't beating no 76ers. Are they going to beat Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra's Miami Heat, who just added Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker to Jimmy Butler and company, Bam and Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson? No, they won't. They're not beating any of those four teams. I don't know that they'd beat the Bulls. Maybe they beat the Pacers or the Wizards or whoever else is there. But they're not beating one of the top four teams, and they're going to have to play one of them, meaning they ain't winning a first-round series. By the way, I don't know if they beat the Hawks. I don't know if they beat Atlanta. I thought they were going to extend that series 7 games this year, and that didn't happen. I love Kemba Walker, one of my favorite players. For all the reasons and more that you just said, Stephen A., I agree with you about the culture change on the Knicks. That ain't enough to beat teams better than you. They ain't getting out of the first round.
Well, let me start off by saying this, okay? First of all, it's good to see you, Stephen A., Max, and always good to see Molly. But here it is. See, look, Max, let me tell you something. You got to watch out for Stephen A., okay? He's slick with his stuff, okay? He's really slick with his stuff. And I caught exactly what he just did. See, he avoided the question because you know he's a New York Knicks fan, New York stand-up, and he did not want to go against his New York Knicks. So what he did was he provided us with a beautiful eulogy about Kemba Walker. I mean, praising his character, praising everything about him. When the question was asked, are they getting out of the first round? And the answer is hell no. It's all Max's points for them not being a top 5 seed, a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. You got the Milwaukee Bucks, you got the Philadelphia 76ers, the Brooklyn Nets, the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics. So they're going to fall in that bottom tier. Now, with that being said, look, I love the culture over there that World Wide West, Scott Perry, and Tom Thibodeau has established, and I think the future is bright. The future is just not right now this year, okay? And when you look at what they did last year, the New York Knicks were actually hunting But now this year, they're going to be the 100. I'm not saying that they're a title favorite, but teams are going to get their rest when they got to play the New York Knicks. Teams are going to strap up their shoes. Teams are going to walk into Madison Square Garden with a different type of mentality because they know that they got to come out there and give this team everything they got, because we all know that one thing about Tom Thibodeau team, they're going to play extremely hard on the defensive side of things. Another thing that concerned me and Kemba Walker's speech was when they asked him about playing back-to-backs. And he said, I don't know yet. And from what my sources tell me, now I'm not Woj, and I'm not trying to be Woj is in a whole other atmosphere, but I do have some relationships. And from what my understanding is that Kemba needs are just not the same. That don't mean that he can't go out there and contribute and give buckets, but it's just not the same old Kemba. So with that being said, to answer your question, Molly, no, I don't see the Knicks getting out the first round. Hell, they might have even have trouble making the playoffs because they might be in the position to be in the play-in tournament.
Okay, I appreciate that soliloquy. Thank you very, very much pointing out my slickness. You're right. You got me there. You know what I'm saying? Because I got caught. But I wasn't slick on purpose. I just got a little bit emotional. That's all, because I was thinking about my New York.
You were building a culture.
But let me be very, very clear. Let me be very, very clear to Max and Kendrick Perkins. The New York Knicks are going out of the first round. Okay?
Here we go.
Let me say that right
going
there.
out in the first
New York
round.
Knicks.
You weren't so confident 5 minutes ago.
Y'all remember this. The New York Knicks are going out of the first round. New York, stand up. New York, stand up. That's right. Let me tell you something, Kendrick Perkins, okay? Let me tell you something, right? Right, listen. We had the one-arm bandits that is Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett. Now, I have been told. Listen, hey, here's the deal. The one-arm bandit. I have been told. I have been told. And by the way, I mad respect and love for the ultimate insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. But I'll be damned if I don't have my sources. I have been told that those two have been kidnapped, that their left hands have been handcuffed and strapped. They haven't been allowed to use it and will not be allowed to use it until the month of October. They have done nothing but use their right hand over the last 2 or 3 months. That's number one. Number two, let's continue to dismiss Mitchell Robinson all we want to. He is a 7'1" center whose primary signature is about defending and shot blocking. That's something that Trae Young and the rest of the crew would need to consider when they were coming in the lane, throwing up those little floaters or having alley-oops. That's not going to be so easy next season. Let's take into account number three. My poor brother Derrick Rose had to sit up there and exhaust himself because they were getting no help, no productivity pretty much whatsoever from the point guard spot with Peyton. Quickly was young, even though he had good moments. He was relatively young. Now you're going to have Kemba and have Derrick Rose as a true reserve, especially with Kemba being able to create his own shot. We can't summarily dismiss that. Fournier is no scrub. We can't summarily dismiss that. And defense can win you. And so what I'm saying to you is this. You ain't going to beat Brooklyn. I got you there. You ain't going to beat Brooklyn. You ain't going to beat Milwaukee. I'm not sitting up there and guaranteeing anybody else. When you look at
let
Brooklyn,
me guarantee it.
That's right. I said it. I said Brooklyn, Milwaukee guarantees. Ain't nobody messing with them.
Let me guarantee a couple.
And listen, because we don't know what's going to happen with Philly. We don't know what's going to happen with Philly yet. Yes, Atlanta and Miami, you've got to pay attention to. I get all of that. But I got news for you, Max Kellerman. And Kendrick Perkins right there, you were a bit young back in the day. You know what I'm saying? You were your boy Stone. You understand what I'm saying? You were Stone at the time when I was covering the league. But I sat up there and I went like this. I said, in 2000, AI against Kobe and Shaq. I said, AI will get you one. That's what I said.
Yeah, the Knicks will get you one.
Hold on, wait a minute. Brooklyn was going up against Boston. They had, especially after Jaylen Brown went out, they had no business losing a game to Boston, but Jason Tatum dropped 50. Okay, all I'm trying to say to you is this. When you talk about Brooklyn and the Knicks wouldn't win a game, I beg to differ. I can see them winning one game.
Okay. All right. You know what? You're right. The Knicks might win a game.
Anybody else, they can beat. They can
Stephen
beat.
A., you made a great point.
In Eastern Conference.
You won this debate if we change the question to, can the Knicks win a game in the first round? I give it to you. They can win a game in the first round.
I said Brooklyn or Milwaukee. I think the Knicks can beat anybody in the Eastern Conference.
Well,
All right,
Shame
well,
on you.
Big Perk, you're coming back. Gotta go, guys. From one Nick to another. Football is back, and we cannot wait. The NFL has made it clear to players, coaches, and officials that taunting is a point of emphasis this season. In turn, many have criticized the NFL as the no-fun league. But Giants owner John Mara standing firm on no taunting. Mara, who's a member of the NFL's competition committee, says there's widespread agreement among rule makers that a crackdown on taunting is necessary. Take a listen.
I mean, that's something we discuss every year in the competition committee. We get kind of sick and tired of the taunting that does go on from time to time on the field. We've tried to balance the sportsmanship with allowing the players to have fun, and there's always a fine line there, but none of us like to see that, and it's just a question of whether you can have rules that can be enforced and without taking the fun out of the game too. But nobody wants to see a player taunting another player. I know I certainly don't, and I think the rest of the members of the competition committee feel the same way too.
Nobody wants to see a player taunting. Super Bowl champ Jeff Saturday is here. He didn't follow the rules and wear his blue shirt and his blue tie, but that's okay. What's going on, Jeff? I know. It's okay. Next time.
How are you?
Good. Max, we'll start with you. What do you make of those comments?
Stephen A., remember when Mills Lane, the old ref, had his judge show on TV? His tagline, it was a great show. His tagline was, "I'm not final because I'm right because I'm final." You know, like the buck stops here. This is the law and this is the rules, how it's enforced. And you know, might makes right, kind of. That's what John Mara is saying here. You know, and I'm a Giants fan. The Mara family's been a great football family. But he's basically saying, me and the members of the Rules Committee, and we've all talked about, you know, like the very similar backgrounds, shall we say, of almost every single NFL owner. Like, why is there such a lack of diversity at the ownership level? It's tied to the fact that, you know, why is it almost all old white guys at the ownership level? Because they're intrinsically better at making money, or because of the history of our country, right? And they also reflect an older point of view. They're old men. I got to say that I'm not reflexively against the idea that the older generation has things to teach the younger generation, or that the kind of puritanical traditions in this country that say be reserved emotionally, don't be demonstrative and everything, doesn't also have some value, right? Like, I'm not just reflexively saying, oh, he's just this old white guy who's out of touch, right? Like, I'm not just saying that. However, you can want to promote sportsmanship or your idea of sportsmanship without taking the life out of the party, without taking the air out of the room. I mean, Muhammad Ali, the most famous and celebrated athlete who ever lived, was accused of the same stuff in the 1960s especially, but even in the 70s, right? Did the fans like it or not? Was it popular or not? Like, I understand sometimes people say, well, it's mean-spirited. Okay, you want to legislate against that? Maybe it's not. Maybe you just aren't used to it. I think that especially what you saw when LeMay took like 5 guys for a 10-yard run on his back and broke all those tackles, if he lets his opponent know it, I beat you in that moment just for a second, to hit him with a 15-yard penalty after he picked up 14 yards for that is an unnecessary, self-inflicted wound. And after prefacing it with all I said about Mara, he seems simply very out of touch.
My initial response was to say something along those lines. They're out of touch. I love to see the celebrations. I love to see all of that. It's theater. It contributes to the authenticity that comes with sports that you can't find anywhere else, et cetera, et cetera. I also was sensitive to it because I've often complained about how we'll see guys, for example, fighting, and the world is in an uproar if it's football or basketball players, but in hockey for decades they accepted it. As a matter of fact, they lamented when it dissipated dramatically in terms of the fighting. So I thought that folks were hypocritical, just as American citizens from time to time. And when Mara said what he said, I was inclined to go in that direction, Max, Jeff, Molly. And then I took the liberty of looking at the makeup of the competition committee. And I don't know what it was. I harkened back to an article from last year. I imagine the committee is relatively the same now. But I remember guys like not just John Mara, not just Stephen Jones, Ron Rivera on the competition committee, Mike Tomlin is on the competition committee,
Ozzie
Newsom's on the competition committee. Again, I don't have the present day list in front of me, so if I'm wrong about any of those names now, forgive me. But I looked at the list of names. There's diversity on the competition committee. And then when you read about it, it talks about how the committee's deliberative process takes into consideration the input of experts, clubs, players, league committees, the NFL Players Association, et cetera, et cetera. So when they come to these conclusions, they're not some monolithic group standing alone, making these decisions devoid of any input whatsoever and devoid of any diverse input whatsoever. And then I think about what some of my friends always say to me. There's a difference between celebrating and taunting. And so when you take all of those things into consideration, you can understand where owners, where league officials are coming from. Here's what the only thing that I would say without, I don't want, thinking about it, I'm not going to insult the committee. I understand where they're coming from. We have an obligation to be as respectful and as fair-minded as we possibly can be to understand why they draw some of these conclusions. What I would say, however, is all I ask is that you take the fans into consideration. And what I wish is that there were not these hard, fast rules, and instead they used their discretion when appropriate. You got a game and it's intense and dudes are going back and forth and what have you, and a dude makes a play like, you run over somebody, or you catch a pass in his face and jump over 3 defenders, or you get a big time hit and you cause a fumble, whatever it is. You understand? And it's a game-altering, game-changing moment. You don't turn around and compromise the potential outcome of the game because Tyreek Hill was waving goodbye to a dude he blew past en route to a touchdown. You just don't do stuff like that. You don't take an outcome. You don't compromise an outcome at that because of something like that. As long as they're exercising discretion, Jeff, I'm good with it. I just don't like it when dudes that ain't playing come down hard on these guys. You're asking them to be intense, go all out, do everything they can to maximize their potential for the benefit of the team. And they do it, and because they celebrate, you overreact and penalize them for it. I would hope that the National Football League doesn't become the no fun league because they're too excessive with that.
Yeah, preach that. I think when both of you talk about our game, I want all the fans to realize how hard our game is, right? For me to take another man who's 350 pounds and he and I are battling and I get my hands inside and I drive him and I put him on his back, I should be able to celebrate that. That is not something that every person can do on this planet, and I don't do it very often. So when I do, I want to be able to celebrate it. When a running back carries 5 or 6 guys 10, 15 yards and finishes, I don't think him looking back and getting hype is taunting, right? So when you think about how hard it is to score touchdowns in the NFL, when you see how hard it is to intercept the ball, or how hard it is to have a great tackle against Derrick Henry where you blow him up and put him down, or when he has the stiff arm and throws a guy 5 or 6 yards, those plays should be celebrated, folks. Like, that's why we're in the game. And I think fans as a whole love that excitement and they love the energy. And let's never forget, this is an entertainment business. We are in the entertainment business, right? And there are so many serious things going on in our country around. Let's have some fun. Like, the last thing we want to do is legislate this thing down, We don't want to legislate it down so tight and so tense that we can't even have fun with it. Like, I get true taunting, right? Like, I don't want to see anybody get up, put his hand in somebody else's face mask, or grab his face mask, or shake it. I'm not saying that. But that happens very rarely in our game. Most players have respect for other players. And look, I loved last year when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get up and give him a peace sign as well. Like that's fun. There's nothing hateful about that. It's just guys going back and forth. And by the way, that generates energy on the field, y'all. Like, that's how you get yourself going. I know every fan thinks that every time you run out of that tunnel, you are so hyped up that you can't control your. But that's not the case. There are little things and little opportunities that you take as a player to excite you, to take you to the next level. Let's not legislate and regulate this thing down so far that we can't have any fun. Again, there's balance between it, but I don't like the way it comes off. You know what I mean?
We watch sports to be exhilarated. When the athletes are exhilarated, it's infectious. Why take that moment away from everybody?
100%.
Prolonged taunting, humiliating a guy, I get it. But yelling at him that you just beat him on a play? Come on. Celebrating your own play? Come on.
We all need that. We all need that distraction.
Calm down. Molly has to go to commercial. Calm down.
Jeff, you'll be back. Not today, but you'll be back, and I can't wait for that. In a previous life, gentlemen, I was a fantasy football show host, so I'm going to ask the guys to try to get on my level. It'll be difficult for Stephen A. Which top 5... Thank you, Field. No big surprise that Patrick Mahomes tops the projections for top fantasy quarterbacks this season. He's followed by Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, both of whom add some protection with their legs, obviously. Fourth is Dak Prescott coming back from that gruesome ankle injury. Lamar Jackson completes the top 5. Stephen A. Smith. Who's the top 5 quarterback that you think could potentially take a step back this season?
Well, me personally, I think it's Dak Prescott, and that's all in fantasy. A step back if you're comparing him to the other dudes in the top 5. When you think about Kyler Murray, when you think about Lamar Jackson, when you think about Patrick Mahomes and these boys, Josh Allen, you're going to see dudes that's capable of making plays with both their arms and their legs. They're definitely going to throw the football a lot. We'll see what happens. In the case of Dak Prescott, it's not that I expect the precipitous drop off in terms of, what he can do offensively and throwing the football because of the requisite weapons that he has available to you. I just think that even though he only rushed for, I think it was 277 yards, not last season when he only played 5 games, but the season before that, and then the 2 seasons prior to that, he ran for 305 and 357. In the end, what it comes down to is that that Dak Prescott, particularly when you've got weapons that have to be covered in Lamb, Gallup, and Cooper, you could see him dropping back in the pocket and then taking off because so many people in the secondary are preoccupied with those receivers that there's some gaps that he can exploit to extend plays, move the chains, etc., etc. I think based off of the injury that he incurred, Max, I think you'll see him highly reluctant to do that. He will drop back to pass. He will fling that football. But I think when it comes to extending plays, making plays, rather than him doing that, I think you'll see an individual that's going to be giving the ball a lot to Ezekiel Elliott. And that's the only reason I say I expect a drop off. Some of the things that he could take over and do himself to some degree to help out, I think he'll defer more of that load to Ezekiel Elliott while he refrains from doing those kind of things. That's why I say it'll be a drop-off, particularly fantasy-wise.
I don't think any of these guys are going to drop off fantasy, but if I have to choose one, it's a process of elimination. So Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray run so much they have a very high floor. I don't think it's going to be either one of them. And Kyler Murray, if anything, should run more. Like when Kyler Murray's running, he's just impossible and might wind up like a Lamar Jackson, but a better passer. Let's see. More prolific one anyway. So Patrick Mahomes, leave that guy alone. Patrick Mahomes ain't falling off. If anything, it's going to get even better. I mean, he had 50 touchdown season. He could easily do that again or top it. So now we're left with
and
Dak.
Had the surgery on his foot, right? And had surgery on his foot.
That's right, which took away some of his mobility late.
Yes.
So now we're dealing with Dak and Josh Allen. I understand your logic about Dak. It's sound. But what I said earlier, I think, applies to Dak. He's going to be playing from behind at times because the defense isn't good. They're going to have to try to outscore opponents. And what we've seen is Dak open it up in the second half. And when you look at that three-headed monster at receiver, where probably only the Bucs have a better three-headed situation at receiver with CD Lamb and Cooper and Gallup, I think Dak is going to do fine with the fantasy numbers, which leaves Josh Allen. Now, Josh Allen threw for 4,500 yards. He ran for another 400 yards. He had threw for 37 touchdowns. Like, he's a fantasy beast. That's why he's listed second. But his floor in terms of the running is lower than Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson's. And I think in the NFL, when you're a big, strong guy like Josh Allen, and he's not just fast, he's a good runner. You're a good runner. I think there's a concern, as we saw with Cam Newton, and Roethlisberger, about taking too much punishment. even holding the ball too long or running with the ball, too much punishment. I think, if anything, that may trend in the opposite direction a little bit in terms of the yards on the ground. Then he has to replicate a 4,500-yard passing season with, a bunch of touchdowns and everything. It's not that I think he will regress. It's that I think of these 5 guys, the guy whose floor could lower is Josh Allen.
Well, he rushed for 600. Josh Allen ran for 631 yards his rookie year, 510 his second year.
Right, trending that way.
421 last year, so he's trending down.
Yep.
And I understand where you're coming from. I just think that there were key points last year where I think he saw his ability to extend plays and potentially scramble is very, very beneficial for the team. Now, obviously, he's got to know to get down. He can't be somebody that's taking hits. And in today's NFL, you really don't have to, because as long as you slide as opposed to dive, they can't hit you. And so taking that into consideration, I think that he would. And I think that considering that, you relied on Stephon Diggs, okay, that was really pretty much your lone weapon. Although it'll be a bit better this year, I think you'll see opportunities open up for him to scramble out of the pocket and really and really use his wheels to extend some plays and to move the chains. And I think that's something that he will do as the season progresses, and that's why I didn't pick Josh Allen, even though I get where you're coming from.
One more thing about Dak. We forget because things shifted slowly, but when last seen in action over a full season, Ezekiel Elliott was still perceived as the star of the offense over the full season, right? Ezekiel Elliott was the higher draft pick. He was considered by many the best running back in the game. The constant refrain was, why aren't they running Zeke more? Things have changed since then, but not since Dak has been healthy. Dak, if he now returns and plays a full season, it will be the first time where the perception of the entire team is you got paid, you like a superstar quarterback, you got great receivers, you got your offensive line back, here's the ball, take us there. And I think that means Dak's numbers will look good at least.
Yeah. I'd also be wary of your quarterback, Stephen A. Big Ben, in more ways than one.
I ain't worried about him running.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right.
Getting rid of the ball quick now, too.
Needs to, like he did 2 years ago.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford's another one I'd worry about, too. When we return, Big Perk rejoins the show because we're talking a trip down memory 2003 NBA draft. LeBron was the top pick and has become a legend, a 4-time MVP, 17-time All-Star, 4-time NBA champion. D-Wade went 5th overall to the Heat and got his first title 6 years before LeBron's first. Wade finished his career as a 3-time champ and 13-time All-Star. Chris Bosh went 1 pick ahead of Wade, 4th to Toronto. He joined with LeBron and Wade in Miami and won a pair of titles. He was also an 11-time All-Star. And Carmelo Anthony went 3rd overall to Denver. Melo is a 10-time All-Star but has never reached an NBA Finals. He spoke on the 2003 draft. Here's Melo on the Pistons draft.
Changed the course of my career, man.
Right? Insert him. Take away Tayshaun.
It was, I'm going to tell you what, man, to this day, I still think about that.
Really?
Yeah, hell yeah. Because I'm like, they promised me. You know what I'm saying? Yo, we taking you. We taking you.
Did they?
I'm talking all the way up to draft day. You understand? We taking you. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to Detroit. Chauncey there.
Rip.
Johnny John. Rip, all these guys is there. She came in the middle of the year. I mean, she got traded.
Oh, that's right.
And that's what really put them over the top. But they was like, yo, you gonna share time with Tayshaun? I'm like, cool. Like, I ain't, I'm gonna come and do my thing, but I don't know how long I'm gonna share time with him. You know what I'm saying? I'm just come in and do my thing. And then they won it. And I'm like, oh, my luck. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm there, I think they win another one.
I think so too.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't jump out there so we 3-peat football. I think we go back to back if I'm there.
Stephen A., let me ask you this. Would we look at Melo like LeBron and D-Wade if he was drafted by Detroit?
Not LeBron, but D-Wade. And let me explain what I mean. First of all, this subject on a personal level is very, very sad for me. And the reason why it's sad for me is because I love myself some Joe Dumars. I think that Joe Dumars was an elite executive in the NBA. They went to like 6 or 7 straight Eastern Conference Finals appearances, back-to-back NBA Finals, won a championship, lost the second one with Larry Brown coaching them in Game 7, won the first one with Larry Brown. And of all the great, phenomenal things that Joe Dumars has done and he has achieved as an executive, the one stain on his career is that he passed on Carmelo Anthony and drafted Darko Milicic. Because everybody knows how big-time Melo, my brother, was coming out of Syracuse. National champion, came into the NBA, did his thing. Carmelo Anthony averaged 21 a game in the 2003-2004 season as a rookie. Averaged 21 a game. Okay? This is what he brought to the table. He was an offensive machine. And the culture that existed in Detroit, the way they played together, the leadership that both Chauncey and Big Ben Wallace and Tayshaun and Rip Hamilton and even Rasheed Wallace, all of them, it was phenomenal. And there's no doubt in my mind they would have gone back-to-back, Max. And here's where I say not LeBron, but D-Wade. No, Melo probably wouldn't have went to 10 NBA Finals. He probably wouldn't have 4 championships, but he would have at least had 2, if not more. And here's the reason why, guys. If Melo, in my opinion, had gone to Detroit and won a championship, he would have tasted what that glory was like and never compromised it in any way. He would have been addicted to it, and that would have been his priority. So come 2007, because I reported this at the time, Max, the big three, well, not at the time, in 2010 I reported it, that in 2007, LeBron and D-Wade already knew they wanted to play together. Melo was their boy. As much as they love Chris Bosh, Melo was their boy. That was supposed to be the trio that played in South Beach. It was never supposed to be Bosh. I know I broke the damn story. It was supposed to be Melo, Wade, and LeBron. It wasn't supposed to be Bosh, D-Wade, and LeBron. What happened was in 2007, when they were all free to get contract extensions, they had an opt-out after year 3. Denver came to Melo and said beforehand, we ain't giving you no opt-out. We got this money on the table, but it's for 5 years with no out. And Melo, being a Baltimore native, you know, knowing what it's like to be in the streets, to be poor, to struggle with it, he's like, I wasn't passing up that money. This is guaranteed. Anything can happen. The first thing I need to do is get the bag. And as a result, he didn't bet on himself like they did. He took the money. And because he took the money, he ended up being stuck in Denver, wasn't able to be a free agent to pair with LeBron and D-Wade. That was Bosh instead, which is why his next best option was to insist on getting himself out of Denver, which landed him with the New York Knicks. That's what I'm giving you facts here. I reported all of this. That's what happened.
I remember.
And it's a damn shame because if Melo had gone to Detroit, Max, he'd have won the title in Detroit because they definitely would have repeated with him. Then down the line, he probably would have made the decision, smelling more championships to pair with LeBron and D-Wade, and would have won at least 2 more, and he'd have had 3 chips.
Yeah, none of us can
maybe
go through,
more.
I mean, none of us go through life without thinking, what if? Of course, no one lives an optimal life. It's not possible. Right. And probably, my guess is if Melo stayed to his stuck to his guns, probably Denver folds, but maybe not. And he wanted the money. I get it. I'm not sure they go back-to-back with Melo. Let me tell you why. And I don't know if he ever gets mentioned, like, is thought of with D-Wade historically. Let me tell you why. Carmelo Anthony left college. And by the way, Stephen A., I took Syracuse before almost anyone took them that year to win the title. I was hosting Around the Horn. I was the original host of Around the Horn, as you know. And I was watching Melo play at Syracuse, and everyone was talking about T.J. Ford and this one and that one. I'm like, Carmelo's the best college player in the country. Syracuse is going to win the title. And sure enough, they did. He left Syracuse as a polished offensive player, a more polished offensive player than Wade or LeBron. But he's never been a two-way player. Now, consider, the Detroit Pistons won that championship because they were, and I mean this, in my lifetime, they were the greatest defensive team in any sport in my lifetime, if not in the history of American team sports. I tip my cap to those early 80s Cardinals teams in baseball and some of those defenses out of Baltimore, the turn of this century
Max,
with Ray Lewis. But
could you pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
Just stop right there before you go on.
Yeah.
Are you saying that defense was better than Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen pressing the ball 94 feet?
Yeah, I would say so. And they had less to worry about offensively. Now, you make a very good point there. The Bulls had arguably the 3 best defenders at their position of all time in their primes, basically, in Jordan,
And
Pippen,
big bodies.
and Rodman.
I'm like, watch
and they
out.
were great. That's actually a very good answer to the Pistons.
And what about the bad boy Pistons?
Here's the difference. That Pistons team was routinely, like my dad talked about the Knicks teams when I was a kid, of Walt Frazier and them holding teams to under 90 points on the regular. That Pistons team, as you recall, held teams to under 70 points all the time. You saw at the end of the game, teams with 67 points, good offensive teams. Well, pace of play, whatever. No, it's the weakest link on defense was Rip Hamilton, who gave effort. But these other guys played it like they meant it. So they win with Carmelo, say as like a 6th-man scorer the first year, maybe, something like that. Are we sure that Carmelo gets them past Miami? Remember, they were trailing Miami 3-2. They came back on them to get to the finals, narrowly lost to the Spurs. It's hard to say that they definitely win.
Let's ask someone
because
else.
Carmelo was not a two-way player. But, guys, even if they did win, he wouldn't have been the best player on the team. When Dwayne Wade won, before LeBron was there, he was the best player on his team. He put up a Jordan-like finals performance. That's what it would have taken from Carmelo to be on that Wade-LeBron level.
But let's get
Kirk, talk to me. You were part of that 03 draft class.
Yeah, I was, Molly. One of the best draft classes in NBA history, but I'm not here to boast and brag, okay? I'm going to talk about Carmelo today. But when we talk about LeBron James, he's already in another atmosphere, right? We talking about all-time greats. And I'm not here to disrespect Dwayne Wade because I believe he's a top 5 shooting guard of all time. But if the Detroit Pistons had drafted Carmelo Anthony, it would have shaken up a lot of things, and it would have changed history throughout the Eastern Conference, and it would have affected LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, in my opinion. When you look at Carmelo going to the Detroit Pistons, so what? He's not known as a defensive player. He's known as a certified bucket getter, a guy that could lead the league in scoring in his sleep, right? One of the most prolific scorers to ever play the game. You put him on that Detroit Pistons team, they still win that championship in 2004 because you got Big Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace to cover up. You have a dog like Lindsey Hunter coming in off the bench. They had enough to cover up for rookie mistakes, but he was going to provide that spark and give them extra points. Now, with that being said, here's the thing why I feel like Detroit would have won more and Melo would have gained more for being a Detroit Piston, because just think, that Detroit team had a run from about 2003 all the way up to like 2009, 2010 when they finally decided to break up. If you have a superstar like Carmelo Anthony on your team, what's going to happen throughout that process? Well, one, Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, they're going to take him under their wing, teach him how to be a professional, teach him how to be a leader. Now they're going to hand the keys over to Carmelo Anthony. Now Detroit is still eye candy to other free agents to come and play in Detroit because you got Melo over there who possibly could already have 2 rings under his belt, who has a different maturity level, and like Stephen A. was saying, already tasted the blood of winning championships, so he knew what it take. And that probably would have put a stop to even LeBron making it to his first finals when he went through Detroit. If Detroit would have had Carmelo, then I don't know if LeBron take that Cleveland Cavaliers past Detroit Pistons to the finals that year. I'm just saying. So I think that Melo legacy would have been a lot different, and we could have put it in the same conversation with Dwayne Wade if Detroit Pistons would have drafted him.
I can't deny that what both you guys present could have happened, maybe, but there's a lot of ifs. Maybe he gets a taste of this, and therefore he makes that decision. This happens, that happens. I'm confining it right now to the Pistons, right? They almost went back-to-back, not quite. And the basic argument is if Melo's there, they go back-to-back, he's perceived differently. And surely he'd be perceived differently. But the difference between LeBron, who every time he was in the finals and his team won the championship, he's clearly the MVP of the finals. And usually when they don't, he's still clearly the MVP of the finals, whether or not he gets it. And Dwayne Wade, when he played with Shaq, Dwayne Wade put up 35, 8, and 4 just about over those 6 games and was the finals MVP. No one had had a finals like that since Michael
Jordan.
Jordan.
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
The difference is Melo, at that stage in his career, the first 2 seasons, was not going to be that on those 2 championship teams. So it would have taken the type of things you guys are saying in order to elevate him to the Wade category. He wasn't going to have that kind of impact in his first 2 years.
No, you're wrong. And you're wrong for a few reasons. Number one, you're wrong because you have to take into account your own arguments on behalf of the Detroit Pistons team that won the championship. You often brag about the fact that you picked the Detroit Pistons to beat that Lakers squad led by Kobe and LeBron because you talked about what an elite team they were, how they played elite defense, but how they also played together, how exceptionally well coached they were, et cetera, et cetera. You brought these things in. So when you look at Carmelo, yes, he would have come there. Chances are, since you were a rookie in the league and you could put up 21 points a night in Denver as a rookie because you were asked to do so much offensively, he would not have been asked to do those things as much playing for the Detroit Pistons. Number 2, if you get a title, because remember, without him, they went to a Game 7. My brother Rasheed Wallace, who I love dearly, if that brother if he didn't forget to not leave Robert Horry in the left corner at the Palace in Auburn Hills for a 3 in that Game 5, the Detroit Pistons might have won the championship, okay?
Big shot
that
Bob.
was a very pivotal. Big shot Bob. Rasheed Wallace left him and gave him and surrendered that open chance. You don't leave Robert Horry open for nobody. You don't
Lord,
do that.
you do not.
That was number 2. That's number 2. But number 3, and more importantly, remember what we're talking about. And KP, you can speak to this better than me. In all my years of covering the NBA, I've repeatedly been told when you taste that champagne, when you capture a championship, it changes your whole mentality. Yeah, you want the bag. Yeah, you want the money. Don't get me wrong. You always going to try to get it. But finding yourself in situations where you just playing, but you're not legitimately really competing for a championship, it's just something very, very palpable that's taken away from you. And I'm saying if you were Melo and you were in Detroit, once you tasted one chip, it would have made you make different decisions that would have got you others instead of going for the bag.
Maybe. It's a lot of sliding doors. You're sliding a lot of doors there. I mean, maybe, but
he would have
had
a championship, and they would have been giving him money because they would have knew his skills, plus he knew how to win a championship. He's a part of that.
Absolutely. And here it is, Max. This is what I'm trying to explain to you. At the end of the day, when I said Detroit had a run in them for about 5 years, at that point in time, at that 5-year stance, Chauncey Billups, Rasheed Wallace, all those guys were going on a decline. At that time, that's the time to hand over the keys to Melo. Who's not to say that? Who's to say that Melo was not ready to carry that team, Max? And this is the thing that Melo doesn't get enough credit for. I know he doesn't have championships, but Carmelo Anthony is a winner. Going to Syracuse and winning the national championship as a freshman, that's a winner. Going to the Denver Nuggets and turning that organization around, helping them make multiple, I think it was 2 Western Conference Finals, always in the playoffs. That's a winner. Going to
underrated
New York,
passer.
taking the Knicks to the playoffs. That's a winner, man.
Right.
So at the end of the day, Melo knew what it was going to take to sacrifice once he got to Detroit.
Tell you what, all those guys and Larry Brown would have made him a better defensive player for sure.
Max, this is why I always say it's very important with the organization that you get drafted to. Culture means everything.
Absolutely.
I think the best thing happened for Dwayne Wade was that he got drafted in the Miami Heat culture means everything.
All right, so to wrap this up, we said, would we have looked at Melo's career differently, similar to a Dwayne Wade? Stephen A. said maybe, could have won back-to-back. Perk says yes, he would have had 2 titles. And Max says no. Melo is 3-13 in career playoff series. Do you want to correct me?
I said he's not LeBron, but he would have been viewed on the level of D. Wade.
Yeah, that's why I only said D. Wade. I didn't mention LeBron. I don't think any of you thought he would have been LeBron. We'll leave it there. Thanks for being with us, Perk. When we come back, all you fantasy football players, listen up. Free draft advice coming your way next. Which running back needs to shoot all? Time for some fantasy football. Leading the way in running back projections for 2021 is Christian McCaffrey, who was limited to 3 games last season. Next is Dalvin Cook. And then another one who missed significant time, Saquon Barkley, who was limited to just 2 games last year. Alvin Kamara and Derrick Henry round out the top 5. So lots of top backs here, fellas. But Stephen A., which running back do you think is being the most slept on?
Nick Chubb for the Cleveland Browns. The brother's a stud. Plain and simple. He's an absolute stud. And when you take into account all the requisite weapons that Baker Mayfield is supposed to have available to him, you got Kevin Stefanski watching his back as a really, really good coach. You got Odell Beckham Jr. returning. You got Landry, okay, and you still got Kareem Hunt there. I know that he'll take some stuff away from him in terms of carries from time to time, but this franchise has invested in Nick Chubb. They've let him know they believe he's their franchise running back. They treat him accordingly. And he's a big play kind of dude. He makes plays, and he makes big plays, and he's reliable. When I think about people sleep, I think everybody's been thinking about Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker Mayfield and that relationship and how it's going to work out, etc. I think they've forgotten all about Nick Chubb. They'll remember once the season starts because you know he can ball. But he's the one that's going to set things up for them because when he's running the football effectively, you're going to have to stack the line of scrimmage to some degree to stop him, and that's going to open things up for their passing game. Nick Chubb, in my opinion, is the guy people are sleeping on, based on that list.
Nick Chubb's a beast. I remember seeing a Georgia game on a plane and thinking it was Gurley, and then thinking, no, wait a minute, Gurley's hurt. Oh, that's Nick Chubb. Excuse me. And he's been a beast in the NFL. For the same reason, for the same logic you're using there, I'm going to use with the Las Vegas Raiders and say it's Joe Jacobs. Jacobs, I know they just signed Kenyon Drake, and people are thinking, sorry, I said Josh Jacobs, of course. Yep. I know people are thinking Kenyon Drake's going to do the same thing. The same dynamic that you just brought up, Stephen A. Kareem Hunt, he's going to take some stuff away and catch passes and this and that, Josh Jacobs doesn't really do that. He's not that guy, whatever. But Josh Jacobs, if you're going to tell me that I could take a running back who I'm fairly confident is going to go for over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Well, he had 12 touchdowns. Maybe it'll be 10 this year. Okay, you give me 10 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards from the running back? Yeah, I'll take that. I know I play daily fantasy a lot through the season, Stephen A., every week. And Josh Jacobs won me some games. Like undervalued running back in real life and in fantasy, because I think nowadays people look at players who don't catch passes out of the backfield as a specialty as more limited, as just pure running backs. But we've seen with Derrick Henry, you brought up Nick Chubb, I can bring up Jacobs, that those guys can be really valuable in real life and in fantasy.
For sure. And before we go to break here, too, I just want to say I think Ezekiel Elliott's being slept on. I think he'll have a better year. And rookies have done really well. And we've got Travis Etienne, we've got Najee Harris. And also, I want to throw out another name. Darrell Henderson with the Cam Akers injury could also really give you a lot of production.
Hello, Molly. Excuse me. Do you have one person that you think we're sleeping on? You named 10 people.
No, the one
Is there one?
No, I think it's
somebody special that we're sleeping on?
Stephen A., but you have a snake draft. You can't always get who you want, so I'm giving people a few options of guys that can have production.
You didn't do that for me. You didn't do that for me, Molly. You didn't do that for me. You didn't do that for me. You left me hanging. So you're going to get the whole bunch.
Are you actually going to play this year? If you're actually going to play, I'll help.
No, I don't need your help. I got Matthew Berry now. You had your chance to be there for me, Molly.
Everyone has Matthew Berry. Molly's offering you some exclusive stuff.
I've got Matthew Berry.
Hold on. She had a chance to be there for me, and she left me. She just deserted me, okay? So you're going to look out for everybody else, but you're just going to throw me to the wolves. No, I had to go and get Matthew Berry to help me because you let me down.
Each other.
You.
Oh,
you,
my
Molly.
Goodness. Oh, my gosh.
All right, I'm just
saying.
I
live with so much guilt. All right.
Always check with Matthew Berry before you make a fantasy pick.
The guilt is just wearing on you. It's wearing you down, Molly. It's wearing you down.
That's must read.
Heavy on my shoulders. All right, guys. On the show, I've heard everyone's NFC East picks ranging from the Cowboys, the Giants, Washington football team, but nobody has picked the Eagles. Are we sleeping on Jalen Hurts? Plus, is this about to be too...
Our hands. It's in our hands, and we got to go take it.
Hurts. He puts it in the air. Touchdown!
Keep playing. Keep playing. We have a standard we want to play to. I personally have a standard I want to play to, and you got to find a way to get it done.
Rent is due every day. Those words from Jalen Hurts, who's still battling for the starting job in Philly, but is said to be impressing. Our Tim McManus wrote, Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts dialed in Monday. Outside of one shaky 7-on-7 drill in which he threw 2 interceptions, he was on point with his throws, made sound decisions. It's safe to say Hurts had the best day of any of the quarterbacks Monday, that including Mac Jones and 2011 number 1 overall pick Cam Newton. Next, we've been talking a lot about the NFC East and the 3 other teams. Are we sleeping on the Eagles? Are we overlooking them?
We are. I am. I mean, if you point blank say, could they win the division? They could. It's possible. The NFC East is even in a down year, these teams beat up on each other. The rivalries are fierce. And when you look at the Eagles, the offense started working better as soon as Jalen Hurts was inserted instead of Carson Wentz. It started working better. And I keep bringing up the Arizona game where he belonged on the field with Kyler Murray. And he was like matching him basically and did a lot of good things in that game. But just generally, the offense worked better with him in there. And who did they bring in? Devontae Smith. And Rieger should be better in his second season. They still have the 2 excellent tight ends, even if Ertz is getting long in the tooth. Goddard's really good. Miles Sanders is kind of a star. Like, they have talent. Carry on, Johnson. Like, they have depth and talent at the running back position. Those are just the skills position guys. The offensive line has been revamped. They have, what's his name, Mailata at left tackle now, who's getting better fast. Like you see, replacing Peters, who's like, all pro, but like really doing a very nice job and potentially a long-time starter there. So they should be more sound on offense, I think, than they're given credit for. And defensively, they need a little depth at corner. Their linebackers aren't great, but that front 4, led by Fletcher Cox, is ferocious. They got good safeties, like the defense will be pretty good. Yeah, in a division where Washington shouldn't have a great offense, the Cowboys won't have a great defense. I'm high on the Giants, but like by high on the Giants, I'm like maybe they can win 9 or 10 games and win the division. And the Eagles stick it to them on a regular basis. Yeah, the Eagles should be in the mix.
Max. We're not sleeping on the Eagles. They're putting us to sleep. There's a difference. You understand? They are responsible for it. You understand? I mean, I like this kid. I mean, you know how I feel about Devontae Smith. You know how spectacular I think he is coming out of Alabama. There's no question about that. And Rieger is something special. I love that one-handed grab he had last night. The brother could ball. We get all of that. Greg Ward could do some things. I mean, I think when you look at it from that perspective, and you look at Miles Sanders and the fact that their running game wasn't utilized in recent memory, we get all of that. We understand that. And not only that, this is the NFC East. And so as a result, even the scrub teams play everybody else competitive within the division, and we understand that. But you got to make up your mind, my brother, because you got the Giants. I mean, I'm looking at the Cowboys and their high-powered offense. My man Matthew Berry and others are talking about Washington because of their defense and the fact that they got Ryan Fitzpatrick there right now. So if they give you anything offensively, the defense is so elite. We got to pay attention to all of that. And again, you and Molly about the Giants. We look at the Philadelphia Eagles. And what it comes down to is this, Max. You can give me all of these players, running backs, wide receivers, etc. If your quarterback isn't reliable, accurate in terms of accuracy, doesn't matter. In the end, it comes back to haunt you. And that's what we're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles. Not to say the games won't be competitive. Not to say that Jalen Hurts won't have big-time moments and all of that other stuff. Not to say he won't have big-time games, because the brother's an elite athlete. He's got the heart of a champion. He goes out there and he exhausts all measures and means to win football games. I got a lot of respect for Jalen Hurts. My issue with him has always been his accuracy throwing the football. And when you take that into account, you have to say you can't expect but so much from this offense, because unless guys are creating such separation that they can sit up there and they got dudes by yards and they're catching passes that way, you got a lot of people that aren't expecting much. Then we've got Nick Sirianni, and we know how weird he's been since he's arrived there as head coach. We don't know what he brings to the table. You're questioning whether or not he's on the same page as Howie Roseman, whether Howie Roseman and him are on the same page, whether they're going to be on the same page with Hurts, because he would have named Hurts as starting quarterback, even though Joe Flacco is your backup. You got all this nonsense that's been going on with the Eagles organization. I'm not saying that you're wrong, like they can't win. But what I'm saying is that if we're prognosticating, we're looking forward, and we got to put our money someplace, it damn sure ain't going to be
Eagles,
on the
Eagles would be
Philadelphia
4 out of
Eagles.
4. The Eagles, if you ask me for my rankings, I'm picking them fourth out of these 4 teams. I'll take
last
fourth.
place. So last place.
But if you're
Last
saying,
place,
are we? That's right. But if you're saying, are we overlooking them? In other words, can they be in the thick of things till the end? And could they surprise people? Absolutely. You can't count any team out in this division.
Whoa. Who won the division last year?
The Cowboys. No. Sorry. Washington won the division.
What was their record?
Cowboys and the Giants both had 6 wins or 7 wins.
What was their record?
They won 7 games.
The Dallas Cowboys were like
Washington won 7 games.
The Dallas Cowboys were like 3-9 at one point and vying for the division title. I mean, you're really sticking yourself out there. I mean, way to go, Max. Way to reach for it, Max. I mean, they can win. They can win the division.
You can't overlook anyone in this division.
I'm saying you got
12-win teams
I'm giving
here.
it to you. I'm giving it. I said you really stepped out on the limb. You got me there, Max. I mean, damn. They were contending for the division title when they had 3 wins and 9 losses. I mean, this is the division that we're talking about here. So if you're looking at it that way,
to an Alabama quarterback, an Alabama receiver, I thought you would be a little more excited about Philly.
Alabama. I'm sorry, I don't consider Jalen Hurts an Alabama player. I consider him.
Oh, no.
That's not nice.
No.
That is
the starting
very disrespectful.
I'm not trying to be
Stephen A.
disrespectful.
Smith.
Hold on.
You watch your mouth.
May I clarify? May I clarify? Jalen Hurts is a hell of an athlete and football player. The reason why I said not Alabama is because what is my standard for Alabama? It's the national title. Now, he got a chip from them, but he was benched in that national championship game for Tua.
Don't let the details get in the way of a good story.
By the way, class personified, team player, once Nick Saban decided to go the route of Tua before he ultimately transferred to Oklahoma and play lights out and got them to the National College Football Playoffs. I know the brother can play. But when you say Alabama.
Thank you for the
I'm
dissertation.
Just saying, and by the way, I had 20-something wins, only 2 losses at Alabama. I know the man won game, but I'm just saying for me, when I think Alabama, I think national championship.
Who looked at Jalen Hurts and said, that guy, I like that guy.
I'm very
or Nick
disrespected
Saban and
you.
Lincoln Riley.
There's a lot of angry people tweeting at you right now on my side.
So, it's fair
Kevin
offensive
Durant.
Let him tweet.